So welcome everyone, Christine here with WoW Classic. Classic Fresh. The queues are back, ladies and gentlemen. The queues are back and they are in style. I'm just waiting to get in. Actually, I've been waiting for an hour and a half, really. Actually, more than that when I really think about it. Either way. Position 42. Should be in there in just a couple of minutes. Less than 1 minute according to game. Yeah, as if I will believe that. Go. So I'm gonna be heading out into the Ghostlands. Although first I am going to go to Silver Moon City. But I also want to get some Paladin skills since I am here anyway. Also get the Paladin quest for the Ghostlands.
Our enemies will fall. Be ready for anything.
And enough gold.
Everything has a price.
Well, there goes all my money. Sadly enough. It just does happen.
Time is of the essence.
State your business.
Though to be fair,
Reckoning is at hand.
What do you seek?
alright, gonna sell that.
Stay the course.
Though to be fair, the reason I don't have any money is because I bought this
What
weapon.
business have you?
So that's certainly been a drain on my
We will
finances
have
at the moment,
justice.
as we currently speak. Weird flickering. Monitor affair. Could be. Could be a region, could be a monitor, could be a client, Could be details. Who bloody knows? Maybe I need to update my NVIDIA graphics drivers. Don't know. Everything has a price, huh? Yeah, well. Weapon with 40 silver from leveling merchant certainly has its price, I gotta say. But it's worth it. Okay, let me get Judgment of Wisdom. I am not gonna be using Judgment of Light, that's for them. You need the wisdom to carry on. Right, so I got Blessing of Protection. Let me see about my macro. Oh, hold on. Indeed. Alright. So I got all these quests. Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. We're off to a great, glorious adventure.
Welcome here. I have one-of-a-kind items. Keep your wits about you.
That's a route. Gonna go to the quest giver over there. Get the follow-up quest, which will require me to go to the Ghostlands to around here, which is perfectly fine because there are other stuff that I could deal with. Though I think I'm going to do the Golden Mist Village first and investigate Pandora. I do wonder how much I really do want to do of these quests. I think I want to do all the village quests. Probably want to do the troll quests, but later. Like, the problem with this region is... well, you may only want to go there when you're like 14 or so. Either way. So I'm gonna use the Hearthstone. Oh, I could. Yeah, I think in fact, I think I'm gonna run out of the city and just set my Hearthstone here so I can teleport back.
We will persevere.
Once I'm done with the quest. Although, I think the quest gives you experience based on your level, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe I want to save it for later. The one thing that is certainly going to slow me down is obviously the Plague Lands. Or rather the level 50 to 860 period. Even in RAF, it's still a pain in the neck to get from 50 to 60. Okay, wait. Bypass that.
Anaria Shola. Salama Ashalanore.
Alright, Hearthstone over here.
State your business. The reckoning is at hand. The eternal sun guides us. Shurelaron. I think I'm gonna... You know, I think I forgot to talk to the flight master and... Oh, shit. Ouch! That is going to hurt.
Keep your wits about you.
Oh, I have it. Good. Ooh. That was close. I think that if I had been missing that one, that would have been... pretty unfortunate turn of events. A really unfortunate turn of events, I feel like. So I'm guessing a lot of people are currently playing on their already existing characters, right? Not necessarily a lot of people, well, overall, community-wise, not necessarily an enormous number of people have made the switch to Classic Fresh. Although, obviously, some people have. Hello, Chris. Hello, Chris. How's it going? Always nice to see some friendly faces around. Yeah, I guess that's one thing that's appealing about streaming. Is like you just keep seeing the same people over and over again. And then, of course, there's new faces and all that. Anyway. It is finally raft time. As you say. Alright, so I'm not going to do the play coast. How am I doing? Let's see, I just spent 1 hour and a half in like a queue to get in. I did not miss that about Classic, I can tell you that much. It's like, hey, you want to be part of the queue? It's like, could I skip on that experience this time around? No. There must always be a queue. Or else the scourge will spread around the world like locusts. I got lucky with the server I'm starting on. Well, lucky you. Have there been more servers? I'm playing in Europe, I think. I thought there was only like one server each. But I could be wrong. Now, why am I killing these undead? I think, well, they do drop components. Ah, you're Europe. Yeah, you're America. Well, I guess maybe people in America care far less about this than people in Europe. Binds still need to be made. So let's investigate over there. Kill the sentinel spies. Kill the sentinels. In general. Gotta kill the elves. There's only one elven race in WoW. I ain't the purple ones. It's the ones that were originally in Warcraft 2. Though the idea of wood elves essentially would, honestly, let's be real, that's what the fucking night elves are. It's like, yeah, that's not the fresh idea. Though I guess the night elves are. I do wonder though. Well, I guess the. I guess the blood elves are not the original elves, right? I have wisdom. No, not yet. They must be purified. Okay. Well, congrats, my dude. Right now at level 13. Okay, leveled in 44 minutes, 44 minutes from 14 to 15. Holy fuck, that's a long time. Unless he's killing mobs. Okay, and if you're... So he's already finished the quest, so I'm not sure why he keeps doing that. To be clear, I haven't set up my macros yet. What's my favorite zone in the world? It is an interesting question. In vanilla, easily Elwyn Forest. If anyone tells me that there's any better zone in the entirety of vanilla than Elwyn Forest, they're a fucking liar. That's my view. I'm not gonna stick it. In all of vanilla, there is no better zone than Elwyn Forest, for the sake of leveling. I do like the Plaguelands though. Surprisingly, it's like, how do you like the Plaguelands? It's like, well, it's got some interesting shit in it. Hearthglen, Tarian Forging, the Andrew Hall, you know, important this stuff. I never understood the people who hated the leveling in the Plaguelands. It's like, do you realize the quest experience in the Plaguelands is genuinely amazing in a lot of ways? But yeah, Elwyn Forest or the Plaguelands, and I do mean the Plaguelands, not Western or Eastern, just the Plaguelands in general. For Burning Crusade, that's an interesting one. Do I really like any zone in Burning Crusade? It's like, I absolutely despise Hellfire. I think that's a fairly common sentiment. Zangar Marsh is alright, but just kinda
I guess Shadow Moon is my favorite. Just a lot of stuff to do, a lot of quests, interesting lore, all that. Yeah, probably Shadow Moon. Though I'm not necessarily too fond of the aesthetic, but still, probably say of the BC zones. I mean, it's not like the BC zones or the questing experience is bad in any meaningful way. It's just like the zones kind of leave me, like when I think of the zones, it's like, do I really like Zangarmarsh or Hellfire? No, because you know what, I'll tell you what, when I think of Hellfire or Zangarmarsh or Terrakar, I just think of the miserable questing experience that actually is awaiting me on this character over there. So it's like, oh yeah, I'll tell you what my favorite zone of Burning Crusade is. It's this one. The Ghostlands is amazing. Like, it's always the highlight of the leveling experience for me. Like, it's one of my favorite zones in the history of the game. Like, it's got great lore, interesting activities, like interesting quests, interesting things going on. A nice solid questing progression from the very beginning until the very end. Like, I mean, it's like, yeah. Ghostlands beats the crap out of a lot of zones in the entire history of the game, I feel. Like, yeah, I would certainly say it's better than the vast majority of other zones in the game. Like, it's just, like, if there ever is a leveling experience that Blizzard has never really captured to the same degree, it is the one in the Ghostlands. Now, it's not perfect. The entire side here with the swamp and all that, it's not a perfect leveling experience, but here's the thing. In terms of making a zone that's compelling, interesting, has a good pacing, has a good story, has interesting consequences, has a solid storyline and a quest line that you are involved in and you are interested in it. I mean, can anyone name me anything more interesting than the Ghostlands? If you tell me Icecrown Citadel, no, Icecrown is all over the fucking place. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, there is some interesting stuff in Icecrown. I don't deny it, but it's like, there's just so much crap, pointless crap as well. I mean, there is pointless crap. The gnolls, the murlocs over here, right? To an extent, the trolls, but it's like, there's a lot of good stuff in the Ghostlands. Far more so than in most other games. Yeah, I see in the game. As for my favorite zone in Raft Village, interesting question. Interesting one. Well, it's certainly not the Dragon Blight. I wish I could say it is the Howling Fjord, but no. I mean, Howling Fjord has certainly a major element of cool to it, not gonna lie. Until you realize you're wasting our time leveling the Howling Fjord because you really want to get the reputation from Borean Tundra with Wormrest. So it's like, that really does diminishes the benefit of Howling Fjord. And besides, outside of the very first few quests, like let's say the first 10, 20 quests and all that, Howling Fjord is not necessarily that interesting. Or it has moments, absolutely, but it also has a lot of lackluster stuff. Though, that does apply for every zone in the history of the game. However, I do feel that, yeah. Grizzly Hills, I mean, Grizzly Hills has a cool theme to it. Oh, absolutely. But the actual questing experience, yeah, not necessarily. There's a lot of things that don't really work there. Obviously, the Dracura stuff is really interesting, undeniably so, but it is a good question. Favorite zone in Raft. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll probably have to go with Icecrown. You might ask, well, what about Storm Peak? Yeah, forum is cool, but again, just a lot of crap as well over there. I also feel like one of the problems that Blizzard have always had when making WoW was that they felt the need that every zone in the game or every expansion had to have a great deal of diversity in terms of enemies. So it's like you're just fighting a bunch of pointless enemies no one really gives a shit about, just because it's like, oh, we can't have Scourge in every area. And it's like, why not? I'm like, that's what we're here for. And then we have FIFA, Deta, FIFA, whatever. Deta. Goods for the ethical treatment of animals. We have PETA and their pointless quest. And this Sanctuary is pretty cool, although Shalazar is obviously pretty decent. I guess Shalazar is a pretty decent zone as well because of the dynamic and of the factions that you have there. A night elf boy on our hands. I mean, Taldor Cell is pretty fine on its own, I guess. It's just like Elwyn just has a great deal more significance. And overall, I'd say Elwyn is a lot more. Although I guess maybe if we think about Elwyn in isolation and not as part of the larger storyline, but you can't divorce the two. You can't divorce Elwyn Forest from what's going on in Westfold because it's very much tied to what's going on in Westfold. You can't divorce it from Red Ridge or Onyxia or Duskwood. It's all very connected. Wow, always nice to see players that realize the benefit of this particular zone. So we got trolls, undead, you name them. I don't know if I want to deal with the gnolls, but I guess it depends on how much I need to do. I might have to actually do all the quests in the zone. At one point, in fact. Man, I'll be happy for Silk Command, honestly. I hate Hellfire. It's not that it's necessarily the worst, but it ends up being played as the worst. I think Hellfire is the worst zone in DBC, by far and away. Just because everyone has to do it, you can't skip it.
And you can certainly skip very large portions in Argamar, Sterakar, etc. And I guess that's one of the things that has to be said about certain zones, like especially in these older versions of the game. Certain zones are substantially more playable than others. Hellfire is just really not a playable zone if you have any kind of competition. Guess what I'm gonna have, ladies and gentlemen? Like, I think I'll want to do Hellfire like something early in the morning or at a certain point, or maybe I just take a couple of days off, wait for the Zerg to pass it, and then do it in my own time. Although how much people will give a shit about the Zerg is its own discussion. Alright, so I still need crunchy spider legs. Now that's a level 14 quest, so it might be a smarter idea for me to head on there. I'm 13, so it's like, what can they fucking do to me? Go kill these guys, right? Especially if there's anyone else there. Like, if I can finish... Like, all you need to know, by the way, about this zone is there is a quest line that starts here at the Sanctum of the Sun. I would recommend probably getting something like 18 before you attempt to do so. Also, you may want to kill the 2 elites. But that's probably at the very, very end of all of it. There's other shit as well, of course, but... yeah. It's my reputation level. Oh, I'm gonna work my way towards honor.
Enubelore Delana. We will have justice. Anaria Shola.
What now? Our time will come.
Alright, not quite the amount of experience that I expected over here, honestly.
Victory lies ahead. We will have justice.
Hello, I am close. I might actually get over it. Right.
Glory to the Sindori. Farewell.
Down Death Star.
What is it? Watch your back.
Good. There's also the Plague Coast of... Nah. Fuck it. Not gonna care. Alright, I guess I should do Windrunner Village. Well, it could be done later on. Like, the nice thing as well about the zone is your central questing hub is right in smack dab in the middle of the zone. And so, regardless of where you go in the zone, unless it's at the absolute extremities, it's very easy to go do some quests, turn them in, come back, get some more, all that. Like, you don't have massive differences necessarily to go by foot. It's an incredibly well-designed zone from that perspective of leveling.
Good luck with the rotting hearts, by the way. Thanks for healing. Okay, more in benediction. Paladin is finally great, indeed. No, you mean Paladin is overpowered, gentlemen. Oh. Okay, so... So apparently LVOI is now loading up my ranks automatically when I level. That's a bit odd. So, yeah. A bit odd. Yeah, I guess that is true. Leveling certainly is improved compared to before, not gonna lie. Alright, that quest is done. Let's go after gnolls. So Phantasmal, Gargoyle Fragment. Okay. That.
Right, gonna need those ore samples.
Our enemies will fall. We will have justice.
Oh, that is nasty. I just need some nulls. What was your very first WoW character? That is a good question. To be quite honest with you, I don't fully remember. I think... don't even remember the server it was on. But it was a low population one. Back in the days of actual vanilla, remember. I also remember that it was likely... well, coming into Warcraft 3. Coming in WoW from Warcraft 3. Like, I want to say it's Paladin, because I certainly do remember one of my very first few memories, the intro cinematic of Stormwind and all that. And I obviously was going to make a Paladin, because the reason I was obviously going to make a Paladin is, like, if you came into WoW from Warcraft 3, what do you think appealed to you? What do you think was one of the most important characters in Warcraft 3? Fucking Arthas. So it's like, oh, I can play a human Paladin. That's cool. Let's go with that. And I think that's exactly what I ended up doing. I'm not entirely certain. It was either a human paladin or a warrior. Human warrior. One of those two. These guys do this hard. But humans, Human male paladin. Oh, I'm sorry, male doesn't exist anymore in WoW. We no longer have males. We have body types. Fuck off. Yeah, it's just it's like, oh yeah, we best spec to level as paladin. Retribution until like 60, pretty much. Yeah, it's 60. I think it's. But yeah, pretty much until you can get Hammer of the Righteous, and then you're spec into prot. You tank as Retribution. The sound effect volume, okay. There we go. Lowered it by quite a decent amount. Now you tank though as Retribution spec. Let me just increase that. Tank. There we go. Yep. Oh, shit, that's gonna be a nasty one. What is this? This is a bit sad. Yeah, great to know that Blizzard is following the proud footsteps of the private servers. She's not even joking with their instant cave spawns. The ridiculousness continues. Alright, so I need one more. One more mob, whatever it ends up being. Small indie company consistently being outdone by teams of modders and small-time developers. It's not even a fucking joke. I gotta wonder at some stage, what the hell is actually going on in Blizzard? Like, you really do need to wonder about it, because you just kind of want to know what the fuck is going on in these guys' heads. Like, how is the decision making being made? How is the decision making in Blizzard itself? No tool is epic shit. What? What do you mean no tool? Okay, so Windrunner Spire. Nope. And when you say epic shite, do you mean that it's a pile of crap, or do you mean that it's good? Just wondering. Indeed, just making sure. I wonder who the hell actually likes it. I mean, it's not too bad of a tool, but it's like the problem is like, I don't know, what did you gain by removing RDF, Blizzard? What did you really gain? Reminded of a quote from the movie Darkest Hour. I know I'm gonna make a terribly inappropriate analogy here comparing World War II to a video game, but hear me out. So there's this scene between Churchill and the king, right? Churchill is feeling down on his luck, he doesn't feel he has motivation. And the king says something that basically says, go to the people and ask them their opinion. And I feel that quote is extremely appropriate in this particular situation with WoW, because it's like you need, because it's like Blizzard keeps making these decisions and these improvements, if you will, in the game that don't have widespread popular support. Now, being a leader or being in charge, right, or being the one with the decision making and the power to do so does mean sometimes, or quite a lot of times, that you might have to ignore what popular opinion is because it just can be fucking wrong. Just because a lot of people screech on social media or media in general about something doesn't mean they're right, to be very clear on this. However, there's another element to all of this about like going to the people, like players, asking the players how they feel. There's a critical element I also feel like looking back at that scene in Darkest Hour, because you look at the scene, he goes on, I'm not really looking to spoiler the movie, but he goes on the subway and he's never been on the subway, and yet everyone recognizes who he is, and they show him a great deal of respect. And the one thing to understand about that is you can ask for players' opinions, but it only really matters if the players actually respect you as a company, as a person, as a politician, or in my case, as a YouTuber. Right? That they respect what you're doing, that they respect you. The problem is, so there's two different issues. The first issue, of course, is the fact that Blizzard is not really asking players. They're asking potentially a couple of content creators, influencers, who may or may not have their hand on the pulse of the situation, but I do very much question that. So they're asking certain content creators probably who do not represent the largest player base. Like I would never, like one of the like I might be an arrogant asshole a lot of the times, but one of the things I would certainly say about content creators, as for myself as a content creator, I do not represent the vast majority of the player base. Now, that doesn't mean my opinions are wrong, but when I say that I don't represent the vast majority of the player base, well, I don't play the game the same way they do. I don't play it for the same reason that they do. Right? So, there are significant differences that do arise as a result of that. Oh, come on, a questionnaire, it's like, I mean, I understand, like, I've gotten those questionnaires myself, Chad, but I have to disagree with the sentiment that that kind of questionnaire, like, those surveys, do they really mean much at the end of the day? Because I've had those surveys myself. I've had surveys from Steam, I've had surveys from Blizzard. I don't think necessarily most WoW players are casual or hardcore. I think that people, when they think of casual or hardcore, they talk about different things. What the fuck is casual or hardcore? Because it's like, if you're telling me hardcore is playing the game a lot of hours, and with all due respect, just because you play the game a lot of hours doesn't make you a good player, or even hardcore. So I think the vast majority of the WoW player base is just average players. What does an average player mean, though? That is the question. What does an average player do? How many hours does an average player spend in the game? How many of those hours are spent where in the game? What does an average player care? I'm not talking here, and I guess the the problem is Blizzard has been screwing the average player base, the middle of the road player base, for so many years. Because on one hand, you have Blizzard bending over fucking backwards for the elitists, the min-maxers, the lootor, no, not the lootors, the parsing whores, all that, with all the crap that they're doing in Mythic Plus and all that. On the other hand, they're also bending over backwards for the ultra casuals, and it's like, okay, go ahead with that, with those extremes. The problem is, the middle ground is severely missing right now. You know when WoW was at its finest? When it didn't have the bullshit 24/7 raiding and raid content designed specifically for that. You know what I dislike in WoW? I don't dislike LFR. I don't give a shit about LFR. I mean, yeah, it's got its problems, but I'll tell you what the biggest problem is in WoW. Fucking heroic raiding. Not because having hard raids is necessarily bad, but because you're just creating segregation in the player base. Hard modes can be fun. Hard modes can actually work really well, but the problem is like the way World War was done. Like World War is certainly one of my favorite raids, and if not the favorite raid for me in the history of WoW, because it has a lot of interesting bosses that only have one difficulty. Yeah, sure, there is a hard mode. In the case of Yogg, there's something you activate manually, but by and large, you know, with World War, we're doing every single player, regardless of what they're doing it, is still doing fundamentally the same raid. The major difference between heroic and mythic and normal raiding and LFR raiding on retail is just immeasurable in comparison. I like how vanilla raids combine both more casuals and more elite players. Yeah, that's absolutely one of those things that vanilla really does have going for it. And I think, you know what? Vanilla really proved a lot of idiots wrong. Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna use the word idiots because that's how I feel about it. Because for years and years and years and years, one of the things quite a lot of stupid people argued was, we can't have 40-man raiding because we can't organize it. By the way, coming from people who have never organized a fucking thing in their life. I'll tell you one thing. I've been a raid leader. I've been a guild leader. I've organized 40-man pugs before Classic came out. I was doing that. It isn't substantially harder than organizing a 25-man. You know why? Do you know fucking why? In fact, in some ways it's easier. Do you know fucking why? Because ultimately, yeah, it might be hard to recruit, but big fucking deal. You get more officers, you get more people, not a big issue. And you do know certain classes. It isn't substantially harder, because ultimately you do have spreadsheets and all that, and yeah, you have some assignments, but it's like, there's not necessarily a lot of things that are very difficult to deal with. In terms of that, there's no inherent difficulty in that. That makes it more complex than 25 men, for instance. But then again, we live in an era where a lot of people, or we lived in the era where a lot of people wanted to pretend that 10-man raiding was somehow a viable fucking effort. And that there was... It is always funny, though, when we hear crap, when you then deal with another extreme. And that extreme is the crowd, the elitist 10-man raiding crowd who like to pretend that 10-man raiding can be just as viable as 25 raiding or 40 raiding. Like, I have to laugh at the notion.
It's not true. It's not hard to get 10 people together. I'm sorry, that's just genuinely true, true, Jigga. I mean, granted, there are certainly population issues, but it's like, it can be hard getting 10 men for specific 10 men things. Retail forums like 20 men. No, that's dumb. That's a really dumb thing. 20 man mythic actually helped things a lot. In a lot of genuine ways. I think what killed raiding, what really screwed over raiding in a lot of ways was the obsession, if you will, of trying to give different crowds different things to raid, and just creating the separation between the hard separation between LFR raiders, normal raiders, heroic raiders, and mythic raiders. That's what killed raiding. Because going from LFR to normal, night and day. Going from normal to heroic, night and day. Going from heroic to mythic, night and day. Imagine if you're a new player in WoW and you even want, like, let's ignore the fact that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily want to do it by default. I mean, they might do it if the journey leads it there, but it doesn't. But let's say you even wanted and you were willing to put effort into getting into mythic raiding. What you then soon discover, and this is the reason why I haven't raided mythic raiding for years on retail. What you soon discover is that the actual progression from normal raiding or pug raiding to guild raiding is immeasurable. Like joining a guild right now, any decent guild right now on retail is a genuine nightmare. Any decent mythic raiding guild, it can be a genuine nightmare. At least it feels like it to me.
Beware, our enemy is abound.
The amount of effort you have to put in compared to beating the exact same bosses on lower difficulty and pugs, the difference is just immeasurable. And that creates a lot of problems in the player base. And that's exactly what's been going on all these years. Oh yeah, I absolutely have to agree with Preach there. He is absolutely right. It is very gated. Like, gated is an extremely... it feels like an extremely appropriate word for what exactly goes on in that. It is a gated experience. It is a controlled experience that you can't really get out. Well, it's hard. It's not hard getting 10 people together. It's hard to get into it, or rather it's hard. It's different issues, Jigga. Like it's the issue of organizing a raid or having the organization of 10 people, as opposed to the different subject, which is starting as a new player and being able to progress on your own. That lies the issue over there. Consider this situation. Like, I'm a very experienced player in WoW. I've played this game for
many
years? 15 more years right now.
Hold your
I've
head
played
high.
on various levels. I've played in some of the best guilds in the world. In Classic WoW, in Dream State, we got a top 10 rank kill. Sorry, my voice is kind of starting to fail me. But yeah, so for instance in Classic WoW, in Classic WoW,
I guess that was the one of the highest levels, but even in retail RAF, like in Classic WoW, I played in Dream State, and Dream State did certainly achieve a lot of things. And I was part of some of those raids, especially early on when I was playing with them. When I was playing with them at the start. I decided to quit to focus on other things in real life. Just couldn't manage it. But I did it for a while. However, you then have the... And on Retail RAF, I was top 200 world in quite a few kills. And then you try and play retail. Just put yourself, just understand this, that you try and play retail, and you try and raid on retail. I have a lot of streams on this channel of Shadowlands, all of them pugs, because joining a guild that's worth it, that's the critical point, I suppose. I could have joined a crappy shit tier guild, no problem, but joining a worthwhile guild, oof, is that the nightmare?
What is it?
Now granted, I'm in the unique position, if you will, of being a tank. And every time a tank tries to find the guild, it's always an issue. That's certainly the case in every version of WoW. It's been the case in Vanilla, it's been the case in TBC, you name it, right? However, I think that retail in particular is especially broken in respect to that. In the sense of transitioning from someone who's playing on their own without a guild to raiding full-time in a guild is especially brutal, I feel like. That is not true. Remember, Jigga, I said a decent guild, not a shit tier guild. Sure, a lot of guilds may need tanks, but a decent raiding guild. I'm talking decent, not top tier. That I don't think I even want to dream about the nightmare that the top tier guild would be, and the requirements in terms of playing alts and all that stuff would be. I mean, playing alts is something that's that certainly is something that I certainly disagree when it comes to WoW. By the way, that's not the point. In any decent raiding guild, like, you can't trade without tanks, right? So any decent raiding guild is always going to have tanks, and they're generally going to have reliable players as tanks. Not necessarily the most skilled, but reliable in the sense that they show up very often. They're there when the guild needs them, right? And many guilds don't have more than 2, maybe 2.5 tanks, so to speak. So getting a spot in any guild that has any degree of success is pretty challenging, suffice to say. But that's not necessarily unique to retail. What is unique to retail is how horrible the entire experience is in general. So make of that what you will. Now, feel free to disagree with me on that. It wouldn't be the first time people disagree with me on YouTube. That is an interesting perspective, I guess. Well, maybe, who knows, maybe I'll try it in Dragonflight. Maybe I'll make it work in Dragonflight if I am still playing WoW at that time. Assuming I have time. Let's see. Oh. And assuming Dragonflight proves... assuming Dragonflight proves worth a shit. There's that. Let's not ignore the elephant in the room there. Alright, so I'm level... Oh, 13. Holy crap. Seriously? Oh, 15, sorry. I was just like... Oh, they're gonna get bored real quick. I can tell you. Give people a month, they'll be quitting in droves. Not trying to exaggerate here. Dragonflight is a bit too busy being woken. Yeah. Furry you know, I'm gonna say it. I'm genuinely gonna say it. You know why WoW is still alive despite everything? It's because there's no fucking alternative at the moment. There's no competition. Zero. Zilch. It's like, oh, Guild Wars 2 is like, no, I'm sorry. Guild Wars 2 is crap. I've played Guild Wars 2. There were things I enjoyed. I think the leveling experience was substantially better than anything WoW has ever produced. Absolutely. Says the person who, oh, I've touched Final Fantasy 14. Oh, I've played Final Fantasy 14. I've tried it. I fucking hated it. I'm sorry. If you know, I've spent time in the last 2 streams of this saying how much I detest the leveling experience. The leveling experience in WoW compared to FF14 is a godsend. So let's just start with that. FF14's leveling experience is a piece of fucking trash. So yeah, I said it. I think a lot of people want to say, "Oh, Final Fantasy is so great." No, it's garbage. It's like, I'm sorry, like, oh, the raiding experience is so good and all that. Okay, I can understand that, but but first impressions matter. Like I'd rail like hard against Blizzard on this subject too. It is worse in every singular possible fucking way in that game. And it's not even the style of the game, believe me. Like, you're right, Badito, about that, but it's not the style of Final Fantasy 14 that drives people away. It's like, it's genuinely shit. If you're starting as a fresh player. Now you could say, oh, it gets better in the expansions. I don't give a crap. It's like arguing in WoW that it gets better from vanilla to TPC. Of course it gets better. They're better than retail WoW, though. No, I've played retail WoW. I'm gonna disagree with that for all the issues of fucking Shadowlands, and they are legion. I would still prefer to play Shadowlands than fucking Final Fantasy. I'm sorry, but it's just fundamentally true. Like, I'm not trying to say you can't have fun in the game. I'm not trying to say... And you know what? Maybe this is a serious thing about Final Fantasy 14 that WoW just doesn't have. Like, one of the impressions I got, even though I detest playing the game, one of the things that I generally got as an impression... Yeah, fanboy detected. You were talking with a guy who consistently rails against Blizzard over here. the accusation of being a fanboy. I'm sorry, no. I don't have to hate something and like something else just because of that. I want to talk about fanboys though. I can hate everyone equally. That works as well. I think every MMORPG on the market right now is garbage in one way or another. There, I said it. I think WoW is just the least garbage one at the moment. Guild Wars 2 could have been amazing. I admit, like, if Guild Wars 2 had actually launched with solid PvE content, it would have been a great experience. The one PvE game, the one MMO that is... I'm allowed to be wrong. Well, I guess I am wrong. Absolutely. Ooh. Well, the game punished me. Should have used the potion. I may agree with one sentiment about Final Fantasy, however, compared to WoW. There is an undeniable truth that does exist out there. World of Warcraft's community is utter trash as we speak. Like, there's no saving grace, there's no redeemable factor, there's nothing that makes it work. Whereas Final Fantasy's community isn't. That's the truth right there. And when you're playing an MMO, that kind of does matter. There was this video from this machinima video from this guy. I forget his name, but he makes a lot of like these funny videos, and he made like a comparison of mentality of the community between WoW and Final Fantasy. The one part of that that stuck with me is the moment, yeah. Yep, exactly, Marcelo. Exactly that. Final Fantasy only became important because we were all disgusted by Blizzard and we were looking for a way out. That is absolutely true. And you know what? If we had found a way out, if streamers had found a way to quit WoW and to make and to have a game they would enjoy and that would be viewed, they would have done so. Because at the end of the day, believe it or not, we're not fanboys. Like, this is the dumb thing to accuse a streamer of. You know what we are? We're businessmen. We do this for money. Fundamentally, we might do it for passion, we might enjoy the things we do, but fundamentally, we do it for a paycheck. We do it to put food on the table. That's something people shouldn't ignore. For all the passion, all the arts, all the discussions, all that, we do it because we live through this. There's nothing more to it than that. And at the end of the day, Final Fantasy is not that good. It's not as enjoyable to begin with, so it's a misery to play it. And the interest from the player, from the overall viewer base, because that's the crucial aspect, the viewer base, not just the player base, the viewer base is nowhere near as high as WoW. I hate to say it, but the truth fundamentally is there's a lot more people interested in watching WoW than they are in Final Fantasy or Guild Wars or anything like that. A lot. And on top of that, WoW just pays better ad revenue-wise. Now that doesn't make you a fanboy. That just makes you someone who is living in an actual reality where on this good planet we need to make a living somehow. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna pretend about it. Do I despise WoW so much that I would never play it in my life again? No, I don't. Would I play it at this moment if I had other options that would be as profitable? No. And there's no reason for me to lie about that. It's just the honest truth. Man, I like it. And to be fair, I do enjoy World War. Like, I really want to do World War in ICC again. I just don't much care for the leveling and the gold grind and all that kind of stuff. Well, started the quest. Okay, but WoW being more popular doesn't mean it's better. See, I can agree with that sentiment completely. Just because something has a lot more popularity doesn't mean it's good. For instance, and am I gonna get a lot of hate for this? I think Skyrim is a decent, okay game. I think it's a complete, utter trash game compared to games like The Witcher 2 or Dark Souls. Just a reminder, Dark Souls 1 and Witcher 2 came out the same year as Skyrim. Do you know which game got all the Game of the Year awards and all the mega popularity? It was fucking Skyrim. Did it deserve it? No, it's a broken, buggy piece of shit. You want to compare Skyrim to Dark Souls 1 or Witcher 2, games that were very significant in the industry? Go right the fuck ahead. So popularity, but Skyrim was more popular. Still is, to this day, vastly more popular and is a genuinely cancerous influence on the gaming industry to this day because of how it was popular. But the thing I will argue is this. From a leveling or grinding perspective, like, you know, stuff that consumes an enormous amount of your time in every MMO that you play, Final Fantasy is far worse. And not just slightly worse, far worse. I doubt The Witcher would exist without Gothic 2. Well, I doubt many RPGs would exist without Gothic 2, to be honest with you. At least as we know them. The thing is, it's not just leveling, Jigga. It's other things as well. So, now, I would be very much in favor of a game that was focused just purely on raiding, but a game isn't, no MMO out there on the market is just purely about raiding. It's like you can't just take raiding and put it in a box. You just can't. Because that's not how it works. Is the overall encompassing experience of a game that makes or breaks it. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Knights of the Old Republic, generally considered in many ways a trash game, and it is. Oh, but it has a great story experience. It does, absolutely. It has a really good story experience. Yeah, I'm not gonna agree with that on the story. And even if I do agree on the story, is like, it's like the way they tell that story is also not that great. Japanese developers have really, like, one of the things I do dislike about a lot of Japanese games, you know what I dislike, is like they voice certain things in the storyline and then they don't voice certain things, but they still make us go through a lot of these dialogue cutscene stuff where they're like going through the lines, and it's like, at least in WoW I can just skip that. It's like in Final Fantasy, it's like keep clicking, keep clicking. I don't care. Move on. The story isn't good. Or rather, the storytelling method isn't good. So, Knights of the Republic, for instance, has an amazing way, has an amazing story overall in a lot of ways. It depends on the class you're playing, right? But even in vanilla, you do have a really good storyline, and you do have one that's pretty solid in the expansion as well. Is it a good game? No, it's utter garbage. Its gameplay is crap as hell. Its PvE and PvP is just dead for good reason. So one aspect of the game, or even multiple aspects of the game, does not make it good overall. Unless, and this is where the exceptions come in, unless that one aspect, be it storytelling or gameplay, is such a significant part of a game that it doesn't matter, like, say, the graphics or the voice acting or something like that is apart. As an example, I'll give here. One game that I think is actually genuinely amazing in a lot of ways is an RPG called Alpha Protocol. Does it have good gameplay? No. But the game is not about the gameplay. The game is about the story and the storytelling. That's the focus. That's a core element. The gameplay is just kind of like something attached to it. It's secondary. It's unimportant. Now, if raiding was all Final Fantasy was about, maybe I could see that argument. But it isn't just what it is about. Just like WoW isn't purely just about raiding and dungeons. As much as they are so prevalent, there's a lot more to it. There's the leveling, the grinding, the professions, Torghast, and so on and so forth. You can't ignore the other aspects of a game. No matter how much time you may spend on one aspect, because if you're a new player, you are going to go for the leveling, you are going to deal with the grinding, you are going to deal with X, Y, and Z in a game. Like WoW, like Final Fantasy, like Guild Wars. Do you know which game I think was the closest to actually being better than WoW? WildStar. That's it. That's the only MMO that I feel ever gave WoW a run for its money in a genuine sense. Now, was WildStar good from a story perspective? No. Was it great from a... If you're talking about the leveling experience that takes 100+ hours or something like that, or dozens and dozens and hours to get to max level, and then you're telling me it's just about rating, I'm sorry, like, like that's not how it would be. And yeah, I think WoW would be better if it didn't have a leveling experience as well. We're just waiting for the escort. That's my view on it. But here's the thing. Here's why something like WildStar worked. Was it because the questing experience in WildStar was somehow inherently superior to WoW or Final Fantasy? Not really. It was pretty mediocre in its own right. Though not frustrating. The thing I hate about Final Fantasy leveling wise, it's not that it's just subpar, it's that it genuinely forces you to go through this miserable, crappy shit style of storytelling that they have with no voice acting again and again and again and again. It's like, I don't care. I genuinely do not give a shit. I mean, it's nice when they do have cinematics and voice acting and all that. That is interesting. But it's like when you're just going through these unvoiced periods and all that, it's like, oh, but the expansions have more. Yeah. Well, you don't want to do that for various reasons, right? Boosting is a problem. Boosting is a problem in WoW. Boosting is a problem in Final Fantasy 2. I believe we all know why. But I'll just say this about WildStar. Why was it so good? Well, although the questing experience was certainly nothing to write home about, it wasn't especially frustrating either. Beyond that, though, the other thing to be said about WildStar is that it had a really amazing combat system. Didn't matter what level you were playing the game on. You weren't bored leveling in that game because the combat was so boring and nonsensical and easy. You weren't having an easy fare because on every level you played that game, you were always constantly, not challenged, I wouldn't use the word challenge, but you were engaged. Because you were always moving to avoid damage so you could keep going without having to stop because of downtime. You were interrupting enemies, CCing them, and all that. While you're leveling on your own, doing quests, not dungeons, quests. Solo quests, not party quests. Hell, you could solo most of the party quests as well, or a vast majority of them, by just playing that, because you had a very active combat system that was reliant on a significant amount of movement and avoidance of various abilities, especially with the telegraph system. Now you might say, oh, just telling people where an ability is going to hit. You can tell people where an ability is going to hit. That doesn't mean that dealing with it is a cakewalk. It wasn't. And then I think what was amazing as well about WildStar is this. You had this entire engagement, this constant engagement, throughout every level of the game. Leveling, dungeons, questing, and like leveling on your own, killing mobs, questing, doing dungeons, doing raids. It was there on every single level. It mattered a lot more, of course, in raiding, but it was always there. Like, imagine a boss fight. Lies vanilla, repella vanilla. Well, I'm sure S-Fan would agree with you there, Benito. Yeah, I mean, the thing about, I mean, don't get me wrong, I agree with you. Guild Wars 2 did a lot of things similar to WildStar, because they're made by the same publisher, and it had a much better storytelling perspective. I guess that's the thing that I cry about when it comes to Guild Wars 2. It's like, it had so much potential, it did so many things right, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna remove the Golden Trinity, so our PvE content is just gonna be a pile of crap.
fucking reality. No golden trinity. It falls apart. Plain and fucking simple. Possibly. But you know it. You know what I mean, though, Jigga. It is still it.
Glory
That game
to
is...
the Sindorai.
Yeah.
Shoreloran.
Baladash, Malanore.
That game is done.
A new
I mean, it might
Belore
suffer bursts of popularity, but I do make this point. If there were alternatives to WoW, we would be playing them. There are not in the same numbers as WoW. Now, Final Fantasy may have good numbers, may seemingly have good numbers, for instance. Pretty sure Guild Wars
Farewell.
does not.
Our enemies will fall.
So, well, that does become a problem.
The dark times will pass. Be ready for anything.
Yes. Time is of the essence.
Alright, I am going to get a glass of water. Not gonna lie, I almost lost my voice over there. Got a bit carried away, gotta admit. But yeah, you can tell I do feel strongly about these kind of things. I feel strongly, I mean, when you play a game, on and off, sure, whatever. Yeah. I feel the... Is brutal gear any good for prop paladins? Yeah, I would say so. The resilience is really good. It will certainly help you towards your crit cap. You're probably not going to use it past... I mean, it depends. Some pieces you might use until max level. Other pieces you would replace long before that. Depends on the pieces, I will argue. Yeah, there. Okay. The call. Oh shit. Oh shit. Instant respawning mobs in caves, you gotta love it. I don't think there's even anyone here in the cave. Yeah, hello. Any specific gear you want to farm for prop before ramp starts? I don't know. I think a good weapon. Like, if you want any piece of advice from someone who's played RAF, here's the thing that matters most. You don't need to care about survivability for most of your leveling experience, and you will be able to easily gear up survival-wise with gear. However, if you want to have your leveling experience be much easier, get a good weapon. One that's slow, has high weapon damage. Or high weapon DPS, because that's actually the stats that's used. But slow and high weapon DPS. The higher, the better. It can even be a fast weapon. The speed, it would be ideal if it was slow, but it's not the make or break thing. Yeah. Yeah. A slow weapon. The reason you want the slow weapon is because your seal of vengeance, corruption, whatever, it hits, the damage it does is dependent on the overall weapon damage. Most of your ability, your hammer hits based on weapon DPS, and your hammers are only gonna do a lot more, but all the same. Your hammers are only going to do a lot more than your seal. But ultimately, like, the ideal weapon would be a slow one. But again, if you can get your hands on, like, I don't know, some raiding weapon, all that, an axe, a sword, whatever, brutalizers. Maybe Zulaman. Maybe I'll do some Zulaman on this character if I manage to level up. Get the axe from Zul'jin. That would actually be a pretty solid weapon, I guess. You would replace any weapon by 75 because the weapon you can get there is just generally from a quest is just genuinely better than any weapon you can use up until that point. Unless you're a rogue or warrior with a warglaive. I do wonder when people would replace the warglaives. It's a good question. I never had the privilege of playing with a rogue with warglaives. I think I saw one back on retail. Like warglaives in terms of retail here, to be clear. And gotta say though, when you think about it, have the fortunes dwindled for rogue since retail. It used to be, genuinely, it used to be that the rogue, a very well geared rogue, was something that guilds would poach from each other. And they would go for a lot of effort for it. I think actually the most expensive sale of a WoW account actually happened with a rogue with warglaives during the history of the game. A guy from Method, I think someone from some Arab country, rich oil Arab country, buy it for like 7k or something like that. The guy needed the money for because his wife was giving birth, if I remember the story correctly. Either way, I'm gonna go get some water from the vendor.
Everything has a price.
Your gold is welcome here. We will have justice.
Oh yeah. One of the things I would say is, with respect to that Badito, I made a number of videos before Burning Crusade came out, where I specifically talked about that rogues were going to be crap in TBC Classic. Now, the replies I got with respect to that kind of content were like, you're an idiot, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, yada yada yada. TBC Classic comes out. And on virtually every level of the game, from the hardcore guilds to the most dad gamer guilds, the most crappiest guilds you can think of, they're not really using rogues. More than... I don't think I've seen many raids use more than one rogue in Sunwell Plateau, or any raid using more than one rogue. Maybe there are some cases of 2, but no more than that. On every level. Like, on every level of every guild that's cleared Sunwell Plateau right now, it is the exact same thing. But I'm an idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about. Or it's like private servers don't matter. Yes, they fucking do. Like, you guys want to, like, anyone who wants to pretend that the meta on private servers is irrelevant doesn't understand how these things work. Why would it be different? It's not like the content is fundamentally different. Sure, bosses might be harder, might be buffed. Doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't change why we choose those raid comps. No one would argue that you want to have 5-6 shamans in a raid, for instance, in TPC, because the reasons are obvious. Why the fuck would you want more than one rogue, if even that, in a raid in Burning Crusade? But yeah. Though that highlights bigger issue as well, and that bigger issue is the fact that when it comes to
the eternal sun guides us.
That bigger issue brings something forward to the table regarding what was or regarding the YouTube situation, I guess would be a better way of calling it. And what's that problem? The problem is a bigger problem one I've certainly experienced is this. You don't get rewarded for being right or correct or telling people facts, even ones they may want to hear, ones they don't want to hear. You get rewarded, you get viewers. I probably use the axe to be. I think the axe is the slowest, if I'm not mistaken. Either that or the mace. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't think it's the sword though. Probably the axe though. I can't recall. Not off the top of my head. But there is certainly an issue we do have in this day and age, and I think it's something that goes beyond just for me as a YouTuber. But it's something I've noticed that becomes a problem. You don't get rewarded for doing something that's right. You get rewarded for telling people what they want to hear. You get rewarded essentially for being a shill. And then people accuse YouTubers of being fanboys. No, it's not fanboyism. I mean, sure, there is some. Like, I remember when I made a video that got a bit too much attention, if you get my drift, regarding Witcher 2, where I bitched about the visual downgrade. To the point the developers of the game actually were mentioning it in some certain interviews. That was interesting. It got me permabanned on the CDPR forums. Well, that and other comments I had made over the years. It was kind of deserved, I admit, in some ways, but the thing is, although I certainly got some views from that,
I could have gotten a lot more views if I was in that case, or other cases as well, if I was telling people what they wanted to hear. And with Witcher 3, for instance, or with WoW, like with Witcher 3, people wanted to hear, oh, it's an amazing game, it's done very well. With Cyberpunk, people want to hear that it's a crappy game that doesn't have much redeeming qualities. With WoW, it's with WoW, it's like, oh, everything's gonna be fine. You can play whatever class you want. I mean, let's ignore all the years of min-maxing and toxicity and elitism from the community, because that totally doesn't happen. It's like, oh, it's people like you that create it. It's like, it's people like me. It's like, what? Am I some deity over here that influences the minds of mortal men like that? That's not how life works. People don't class stack and min-max because of people like me. People do it because they want to do it, because it makes the content easier. Brainless. It means they put less effort. It means they spend less time. Doesn't matter what I'm saying in that. It's just the reality. But not necessarily one a lot of people want to hear, even though they know it's true. So there are YouTubers. I don't want to give names. I am tempted, believe me. But there are YouTubers who I personally genuinely feel that all they do, and if they have massive channels, all they do is just make content that people want to hear. That's it. They're just following the trend line. So yeah, nothing more, nothing less. Anyway. I am level 15. I wish I could go on. I should have started the stream earlier. I shouldn't have gotten the queue, etc. But similarly, I am tired. I've been up for almost 24 hours. I want to get some sleep, and I want to level later. Besides, leveling at this hour is not necessarily going to be the best experience in the world. So, although I know the stream is less than 2 hours in length, and yeah, I understand people expect longer streams, I am going to end it right here. Was just, I don't know, just was tired today. Not really in a rush anyway to level up. Plenty of time, and even if I start RAF with 0 gear, it's like, don't really care about it. Yeah. So, Costin here signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, enable notifications. If you do enjoy the content, join my Discord, because I do generally post the streams that I'm doing there. Also, would greatly appreciate any donations via PayPal, Patreon. Would help keep me going as a channel. Because I'm not someone who's going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to speak the honest and brutal truth, regardless of what it is. I'm going to say what I genuinely believe is the truth, and I'm not going to coach it and hold back and be pleasant about it necessarily. But I am telling you what I think, what I believe is true. And I don't just base it on, feelings. I base it on rational facts. So, if you enjoy that, consider supporting me. If not, well, there are plenty of channels, I guess, out there for you on YouTube. Stay tuned for more, boys and girls.